Salute, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie. We got a lot to talk about tonight. As always, the Knicks have won 7 in a row. They've won 3 games since we last met here on the Queen's Court. And I got my esteemed panel here to talk about it. But first, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification button so you'll be notified if anything goes live on this channel. That includes the Queen's Court, of course, the controversy, the NBA report with Ron and John from Still Nick Fans, and of course, pregame, postgame, and other shows that Simeon Russell, the creator of this channel, does. Let's get right into it. I'm bringing in Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises, DJ Shuttle, D from D's World of Hoops. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm back in New York. Feels good to have stable internet and just to pop on 5 minutes before the show. Boop, 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 boop. Ready to go.
Beautiful.
How we doing?
Peace,
We won 7 in a row. It's a lit. That's how we doing. That's how we really doing.
Yeah, I'm definitely lit. So let's go.
Yes, and I'm not sure if he wants me to broadcast it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Happy birthday to Tony Crow. Appreciate you.
Happy born day, bro.
Yeah. And I hope this year, this upcoming year, is everything you want it to be.
What's this? Your 65th?
I appreciate it. What's that?
65th?
Hey man, you know I look good for my age. That's all I'm gonna say. No matter what the number is, I look good for my age.
There you go. All right, let's get into it. Let me move over here a little bit. We played Chicago twice. We played Indiana. All 3 games were on the road. Chicago was actually a back-to-back. That was Wednesday and Friday. It's really hard to win, in my opinion, against a team 2 games in a row, especially an away, 2 away games, and the Knicks were able to do it. That first game, I don't have it here, was an overtime win. And these are the stats. Now, I'm not going to go through all of it, but Randall, RJ, and Brunson, pretty much all 3 games came up big for us. In the second Chicago game, Grimes was huge. I think he had 4 3-pointers, but each of them, or at least 3 of them, were very timely 3-pointers. He's been playing, in my opinion, lights out. Whether the box score reflects it or not, I think Randall has turned the corner, in my opinion. More engaged on the defensive end, moving his feet, a monster on the defensive boards, not shooting well, as well, I should say, over this 7-game winning streak as he was shooting the first 23 games. I don't know if that's because the volume is up, his minutes are up. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I agree with Tibbs when he says you can play well even though you're not shooting well. And that's what I'm seeing from Randall. Brunson is just doing Brunson things in my opinion, but he's coming up clutch, and he's able to get to his spots despite the fact that, unlike Dallas, the key is a bit crowded. You know, Dallas played 4 and 5 out. We don't play like that, and he's still able to get to his spots and get his shots. And Barrett seems to have turned the corner as well. So I'm going to ask the panel, what has stood out for you, team-wise, player-wise, or otherwise, about the Knicks this week, or just the 7-game win streak overall? And let me know if you need me to put that back up. We'll start with Tony, then Shuttle, and then D.
Sorry, my cat acting crazy.
Salute to the chat, by the way. Appreciate
Mine
you.
is too right now. That's funny.
I feel like, I mean, obviously the defense, whether we talking about these 3 games, one game in particular, the last 7, we go back to the previous road trip. The defense is really what has came out and shown improved. We got Sacramento first team to keep them under 100 points. Going back 4 games rather than 3. Chicago, the first game, relatively high scoring game. That second game, another under 100 points performance. And then
Right.
this last one, what, 109, 106, right around our average, or actually below our averages of what we give up and what we score. So the defense is the difference to me. And directly attribute to Mitchell Robinson, Quentin Grimes, and to a lesser degree, Deuce.
Before I get to DJ Shuttle and D's World of Hoop, what I will say is I think we're underestimating the improved defense of RJ and Barrett. Let's say what you want to say about Grimes, Sims, McBride. I agree with all of that.
And
But
Randall.
and Randall. But you can have those guys playing good defense, and then you have 1 or 2 guys slacking, not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it all breaks down. And we'll get into when we do the stat splits between RJ and Randall first 23 games over the last 7. Their defense have been better. Has it been perfect? No, but it's been much better as well. DJ Shuttle.
Well, I think from our episode last week, we had the same question, and I think it's this past 3 games has been a continuation of that. The perimeter defense was where the biggest sore spot was early on in the season, and as the beginning of this win streak started, and as it continued this past 3 games, the perimeter defense is setting the tone. It's making it a little easier for Mitch and Randall to grab boards on missed shots and to minimize Mitch's foul trouble and need to leave his man and be able to, just be in better and appropriate position. 2 other key things. One, I think, is something that to easily overlook is the foul shooting. The foul shooting, to me, my mother used to always say, like, listen, boy, if you can't do nothing else, you better make a free throw. You know what I'm saying? So, the foul shots have definitely, the foul shot percentage has definitely improved. And, you can get these easy points at the foul line. Like, that helps you let your defense get set and so forth. And the 3-point defense in alignment with the perimeter defense has helped tremendously as well. We were getting killed so bad at the beginning of the season on 3-pointers, teams shooting, 45, 50, 55, 60% from 3-point range, like unheard of percentages. So now, the team shoots 40, and that's like a high number. And that's the kind of, where we need to be at. So I think these have been key elements, and collectively it just feels like, there's a camaraderie with sharing the ball that's starting to improve as well. And it's overall they just seem more comfortable moving the ball, even if we need more ball movement. They just seem more comfortable sharing it.
Okay. All right. D.
Big thing for me throughout the win streak. Defense. Defense, defense, defense. You need to create identity and culture. So therefore, what do you start off with? You can see throughout the season, they started off, try to be more offensive minded, put more points up, try to get more shooting out there. Just wasn't working. Just wasn't. They had to change plans. By my measurement, we on plan C. Plan C should have been plan A. Are you happy about the win streak? Are you? I am. I love it. I love the things that they're starting to utilize and hanging their hats in, which is defense. We love defense. We grew up on defense. We were ecstatic about the 90s because of defense. So I think defense has been a thing that has been implemented and it's looking primary. Why? Perimeter defenders being injected into the lineup. It's making the team defense look better. Your RJ Barretts look more competent now. Your Julius Randles look more competent now. Mitchell Robinson and Grimes got a great chemistry in that pick and roll coverage. So for me, I think the beauty of what we're seeing is that and I hope they do commit to it. They're laying down the groundwork as to what team they're trying to develop and what direction they're trying to go. And I'm being hopeful with those words. I'm hoping it's defensive. I hope they stick with it. I hope they don't jump ship when something else happens or something else arises or an opportunity or something like that. I think they should stay here. I think they should build it like that. And I think you're going to have a lot more type of successful type of goals beat reach as long as you continue on that path.
Now, when you say Randall and RJ is looking more competent,
Yeah.
like to me, I don't think they're looking more competent because of Grimes and McBride. To me, they look more competent because, at least for Randall, he's buying in. And there's been some scheme changes as well, because McBride and Grimes being in the lineup doesn't help Randall being disengaged and not being where he's supposed to be and not closing out and not doing those things. That somewhere along the line something clicked for him in terms of his effort on a game-to-game basis. And the same thing with RJ. Even though with RJ I never thought it was an effort issue, he just looked slow.
I hear you. And look, you're not wrong. Like, the on switch had to come on. But what I'm saying is that sometimes the on switch is generated by a spark, maybe by a push, maybe by a decision change, maybe by an environment change, to inject certain things, to prioritize certain things that were not prioritized before. And you can see it within the halves of our first 30 games. If you look at the first 15 to the last 15, the only difference has been the injection of perimeter defenders that's leading to more of a defensive mind state. So therefore, you have no choice but to buy in, because at the beginning of the season, that was not your priority, and teams were putting up 140, 130 points.
I agree with that. I just don't think it's that Randall is buying in because those guys are in there. But I do agree that those guys have a lot to do with our perimeter defense being better.
Queen, as far as Randall goes, I haven't wanted to be a negative Nelly, but the team's been winning, so I didn't really want to go here. But I think Obi being out is contributing to Randall's attitude to the game. Whereas Obi was feeling the pressures, if you will, of he has to be perfect. He makes a mistake, he comes out of the game. Randall's more like, all right, the young boy in here now. Let me just, I have to do more. You know what I mean? I have to be more efficient. I have to play better defense. I have to, because
be more
I don't
focused.
have this guy. Yeah, I don't have this guy coming behind me, whatever the case might be. So, I've been kind of holding on to that. I didn't really want to bring that up, but I have been thinking that for, at least a good week or so.
But was Randall ever threatened by Obi?
I think it's two parts. It's threatened because, yes, I think there's definitely people that were calling for Randall to be traded and for Obi to be the starting power forward. So I think that's potentially part of it. And I think the other part of it is, on the flip side, is Randall may be thinking, like I said before, that, all right, well, Obi's out. I need to deliver better now because the guy that will come in behind me is not there and the team needs me more. So, yeah.
Got you. Josh, you're oh, go ahead, Tony.
Josh.
Then we'll get to Josh.
What about? I've heard a lot of people who are still talking about fire Tibbs, right? And not to give them any credence or light, because I think it's crazy, but the argument that they have about the young players playing now and they should have been played, as opposed to maybe now they're showing their value and now that's why they're playing. I'll take like a Deuce McBride for example. We've seen his highlights in the G League. We've seen his numbers in the G League, and a lot of people reference that as a reason to why he was playing. But year after year and time after time, we hear Tibbs talk about practice and showing it in practice, and then being able to get the playing time. So maybe he wasn't showing it in practice. Maybe he was just as hesitant and not on point in practice, and until he started developing that, now he's getting the playing time.
Okay. I mean, we'll get it. We're definitely going to get into to that as well. Josh, just your impressions on this week's games and all the 7 game win on streak. Anything that stood out for you, player wise, team wise, or otherwise?
Well, first of all, welcome back, Queen. Welcome back from
Thank you. Thank
vacation.
you.
I seen you out there with the elephants and coming to America and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So welcome back. Good to see you.
Leaving
Glad
America.
yeah, exactly. Leaving America, going back to Wakanda. So welcome back, Queen. Good to see you again. And salute to everyone.
Same
Salute to
here.
the chat out
Same
there.
here.
7 game winning streak. I mean, listen, the defense. It can't be overstated. It can't be overstated. The defense has been the biggest difference. The change, to me, it's a change in philosophy from Tom Thibodeau. That's what it comes down to. Early in the season, the reason why the defense has been bad or was bad previously was because packing the paint. You didn't have Quentin Grimes out there. Quentin Grimes was hurt beginning of the season, right? So you didn't have him out there stopping those penetrators. What's his face? Deuce McBride wasn't getting all that time right in the beginning of the season. So I think the defensive change has been strictly, in my opinion, from a change in philosophy. And I don't want to say strictly, but it's been mostly due to a change in philosophy from Tom Thibodeau, not packing the paint as much, people closing out on their shooters. The Knicks are number 1 in the NBA in opponents' field goal 3-point percentage, number 1 in opponents' points per game over the last 7 games, and number 3, I think, in another metric. But all their number 1 in defensive rating. The Knicks have been tremendous defensively, and I think primarily it's due to the change in philosophy. And as far as what D said about plan A, plan B, plan C, I think this has always been the plan from the New York Knicks from a front office perspective to get these kids in there. Like that's why they re-sign these veterans to 1 year, 1-2 year deals, and that's the reason why you've seen a lot of these young kids play now. Like I was telling Ron earlier on the controversy, last season. New Yorkers are like now. We want to see the young players now. Maybe they wasn't ready in that part of their development to play as many minutes as they're doing right now last season. Right now what the Knicks are doing shows that they all the whole time knew what they wanted to do as far as these young kids are concerned. And I believe that, it's now paying dividends. So kudos to Tom Thibodeau for changing his philosophy. Defensively, offensively, I'm not necessarily happy with what they're doing offensively, but it's working right now. It's leading the wins, and I can't really say anything else about that.
And we're still ranked 11 in offense over the past 11 games.
Offensive rating.
Offensive rating, correct.
But to Queen, to your point, we're still bottom in the NBA. We're turning the ball over way more than we did at the beginning of the season. We're like 28th in turnovers over the last 7 games. As far as assists, you got the stats. I'm sorry.
No. Because you were talking about it, I just wanted to bring it up just to give context to what you were saying. But go ahead, continue.
29th in assists. The 3-point percentage, has been increasing up there based on the last 2 games alone. But still, it hasn't been the best, right? Pace definitely 25th in the NBA now, right? So offensively, we have taken a step back, but as long as we're playing defense like this, we're going to be in every single game. They're winning right now, so I can't really say anything about that.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because when we were doing it the other way around, it just wasn't working for us. And I wonder if the pace that we was playing at has something to do with our maybe has something to do with our poor defense. But now that we're playing at a slower pace, right now
Right.
we are 25th. Our defense is, it's better. So it may or may not be related, but
Oh, it is.
When
yeah,
when
But
when you say change in philosophy, are you referring to the lineup adjustment? Because
No,
we're talking about Tibbs, where I don't see a change in philosophy. I think if anything, it's a double down on philosophy and saying I'm gonna play my defensive guys more than my offensive guys, as
when I,
not including obviously our top three guys.
No, I don't think it's about the change of lineups. I think when I say change of philosophy, I mean change of the defensive scheme. A lot of times early in the season, you've seen Tom Thibodeau packing the paint, leaving shooters wide open, and then you had to basically have guys rush out the three-point shooters, and then people, they swing the ball around a couple times and you get wide open three-pointers. We're not seeing that anymore, and I think that philosophy, as far as the strategy and not packing the paint, I think that's the difference. Not the personnel, and I think they may go hand in hand
I
because
think the
Grimes is out.
think
personnel
so.
is able to do the things
To
that they're
execute,
able to do because the personnel change. They're able to guard the perimeter better.
So you don't think
And I'm
okay.
specifically, huh?
I'm sorry, real quick question. So you don't think Cam Reddish was able to do that?
not like that.
Not like that. And
Okay.
and Cam is my guy. Cam was a different type of defender. Cam uses his attributes to defend as opposed to like just defensive philosophies or defensive aggressiveness. He uses his length to defend. You know what I mean? Like and it's no knock on him because again, Cam is my guy. He's not the same type of defender that Grimes is.
Not at all.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right,
No,
and
that's fair. That's fair. That's very fair. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I was just going to say two things just to clear up something. When I meant about Plan C and Plan A was to philosophy. I'm sorry, to identity and how the direction of where you're building your roster for the 3 to 5 years, because that's the window. And so I thought you could have implemented that throughout the duration of the 3 years, and you didn't have to try to play around and be cute. That's where I was getting at with that. So defense always should have been first.
I think it was. We just didn't have the players to listen. As much as people want to talk about Fournier, we were the 11th ranked defense last year with Fournier starting every game. He started every game. We were still the 11th ranked defense.
But that had to do with our interior defense. That did not have to do with our perimeter defense. Those are two different things.
I think these hoops is arguing is that Tibbs, like I was saying earlier, Tibbs should have been playing these guys more earlier.
The philosophy is the same. It's just the personnel change. That's it.
I disagree.
I disagree as well.
I'm with you.
You have to.
I mean, I disagree too. But I understand that's you know what I mean. That's what he was. That's what a lot of fans feel that way. You know what I mean? Like if Grimes,
so where did his philosophy change?
Inserted earlier. My argument to that is, maybe they weren't showing this in practice. We weren't in practice. We see highlights from G League. We see the minimal minutes that they did play, but we didn't see the practice. You know what I mean? And because that's something that Tibbs has preached from the first time we've had him to now, you got to believe that something changed for him to go in that direction. And I got to put it to that as opposed to, if he would have played these guys earlier, we would have had the results earlier. I don't know if they were ready then.
Right.
And I don't think
last 7 games that you have posted on this slide here is Tom Thibodeau basketball. There's no other way you could chop it. And if you look throughout his years his years with the Timberwolves and his first year with the Knicks compared to last year, which was kind of like, like the glitch, so to speak. And then there was an early glitch, but now we're right back to where Tom usually is. Tom had never been below 20th in pace in all his years. This was the first year that he really experimented on it. And you saw how far that experiment went because by your slide here is saying that, I'm sorry. Did you have to pay something? Yes, you did. I'm sorry. 25th. which balances out to about 15 or 16 now because their pace was quicker at the beginning of the year. For me, this screams Tibbs.
But I'm
I
not
agree.
disagreeing
Yeah,
with
go ahead, Queen. I'm sorry.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Mhm.
I'm just not with the narrative that it's the kids that's turning everything around. I'm not going to discount Randall's defense. I'm not going to discount RJ's defense. McBride is playing 14 minutes a game.
No, it's not even about that.
You know what I'm saying? So
No,
I'm
it's
not
not about
gonna,
that.
I'm not gonna, I think this narrative that we're trying to push that the kids have been held back, that this organization and this team would have been further along had we played McBride last season, who to me was not ready. I don't care how well he played defensively. There's two sides to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know
I
what I
hear you.
mean? So for
But
me, it's everybody buying in. When I'm following Randall now, he looks totally different than when I was following him, just keying on him during the game on the defensive side of the ball. So for me, it's a total team effort.
let me say this, just friendly pushback stuff. When I saw footage, right, with Evan in there early in the season, right, and then when I saw footage of Cam, right, and then when I see footage of Grimes, right, you are totally talking about a completely different defensive IQ player out of the stratosphere
No
compared
doubt
to
about it.
So hold on, right? So ride with me, right? So now when I have a guy that knows defensive schemes, that could predict what offenses are going to do, and is able to communicate that amongst the rest of the guys. I have footage. I have at least 4 or 5 clips that will show Grimes talking to Randall, talking to Mitch, talking to RJ, and telling them exactly where to be. And that's very important. So it is a personnel thing, because when I had Evan there, that wasn't happening. And when I had Cam there, although his efforts were prevalent, it doesn't match to what Grimes is doing. So now, hold on, one more time. I'm almost done. So now when I bring in IQ, which IQ is a pretty good on-ball defender, and he's even better team defender, help defender, right? And now I match that with Grimes for those 13 or 14 minutes now. That's time that you sprinkle RJ Barrett now with that lineup with 2 perimeter defenders on the team. So now his responsibilities are less than they were when they didn't have that full injection within the roster early in the season. That's all I was trying to say.
And I'm not arguing any of that. But Grimes can talk all he wants. If Randall doesn't want to be engaged, it's going to mean absolutely nothing. He can talk all he wants. He can point to Randall. He could do this. He could do this. He could do whatever he wants. If Randall decides that he's not playing defense, he's not playing defense. But I agree with you in terms of what those guys bring. I agree that now RJ doesn't have to play the best perimeter defender anymore. And I agree that Grimes, you can argue IQ, but I think Grimes is our best perimeter defense. And
by far.
And they have and they've changed the complexion of our defense. I'm not arguing that. I just want to add that it's not just them, that I see differences in Randall and differences in RJ as well, on the defensive end.
And just to point out, Grimes lack of opportunity was only based off availability. You know what I mean? From the beginning of when he made it into Tibbs, as Sim would say, circle of trust. You know what I mean? The only time he was removed from that is because he was removed from being able to play. You know what I mean? Right. Early on, he wasn't able. When he missed the time last year, he wasn't able to play. It wasn't due to like a demotion or in the doghouse or anything of that nature. So I think for and I'm not talking about you, but other fans who argue it, I think their argument is more about Deuce. And not to take anything away from Deuce, his contributions have been great, but they've been minimal. You know what I mean? And there's no way we could definitively say he should have been playing more earlier. Let's enjoy how he's playing right now.
I would like to add, and I think multiple things can be true at the same time. I still think
that's true,
that there has been a philosophical change from Tom Thibodeau. I really do. Like earlier in the season, I get it. You didn't have Grimes out there, but to me, I still think you had the personnel to play a different scheme of defense, meaning not packing the paint as much. I still think the Knicks had that with Cam Reddish in that lineup. I still think they could have went to that, and for some reason, Tom Thibodeau didn't go to it. And in the past 7 games, when that philosophy change was made, right, because Cam Reddish was out before these last 7 games, he was already out of rotation, right? So there was a time period between Cam and Grimes in there where Tibbs was able to swap that type of philosophy, and now that's, I think, the biggest difference. They're not giving up wide open threes anymore. You don't see that early in the season. Guys, I mean, were wide open for seconds. One person gets out there, closes out, and they swing it around, and it's a wide open 3. So that's why I'm going back to that. And I do not think that the change of pace offensively contributes to what the Knicks are doing in the half-court defense. I really don't, because I still think they can move the ball offensively and still play the type of defense that they're playing in the half-court right now. I believe we have the personnel to do that.
This is what I'll say, Josh. Even if our philosophy was the same earlier, even had we changed our philosophy from the beginning, did we have the personnel to execute it?
Maybe not as good as what we're doing right now, but I think we would have been a much better defensive team if we didn't pack the paint earlier in the season. I definitely think so.
I don't think it's changed. I still think our priority is protect the rim first. The difference is these guys are not letting guys get to the rim as much, so we don't have to protect. Like, we have a good rim protector already. You know what I mean? But if your guy is getting beat time in and time out, and your first priority is protect the rim, you're trying to get back to that guy that beat you, as opposed to how we're playing now, where you're not getting beat as much. The big is able to hedge and help just enough for you to catch up, whether you're going over the screen or not, and get back to his man. And now, you know what I mean? I think it's the personnel. I think it's the personnel.
I don't think Cam Reddish was getting beat off the dribble like what was happening with Evan Fournier. I don't think that was the case. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
No,
I don't think it was about Cam Reddish. But he's not Quentin Grimes. I get that part.
He still got beat. He relies on his length and athleticism to get back into play. But even when you're doing that, your help defender, he doesn't. If you're beat already, he's already helping. So even if you get back, there's a lapse somewhere.
But you know what that is, Tony? That's called chemistry between your pick and roll coverage. And that takes communication. With Cam, you notice the difference between him. Like, if you saw Cam and Mitch work a pick and roll coverage, and now you see Grimes and Mitch, it's 2 totally different worlds.
You're 100%. Right. Both of those guys, Mitch communicates, Grimes communicates.
And that's not a change of philosophy.
It don't matter who else is in that screen or pick. They're communicating with the other guy. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So, like, sometimes, like, and you saw it last game, like, if Grimes got beat around the pick, because Miles Turner sets great screens, by the way. So it took up a little bit. Mitch would contain earlier, and then Grimes would do a great job of getting in front of the roll man, and he would get a steal or a deflection, and he would just be in the way. With Cam, you wouldn't see that type of stuff, so that stuff matters.
Well, but so you don't think that Tom Thibodeau, because there was a lot of times, and I hear what you guys are saying, but there was a lot of times where guys will go under these screens, instead of fighting over them. Do you think that's on the coach, or do you think that's on the player? I think a lot of that is due to Tom Thibodeau.
No, I think that's
hard for me to tell that Tibbs is telling them to go under a screen, though.
Yeah, I think that's on the player. Hard.
But at the same time, you do go through film, you go through preparation. Also, too, when you're with these guys in practice and stuff of that nature, or training camp, you want to try to get when you go under, when you go over, right? How do you fight through the screen, right? When do you go wide? When do you get skinny? So it's both, Josh.
Yeah, it's based off of who you're playing against. If you're gonna go over or under, I think that's number one. But it's also your personnel. It's obvious. Some of our guys fight over screens viciously. Some of our guys, not so much. Some of our guys, a screen stops them, and then they have to readjust.
But then how do you explain RJ? Because RJ is now fighting over screens now. He wasn't doing that earlier in the season. So how do you explain him? That's what I'm saying. It's really hard to tell, and I think we all may be right talking about the same thing from a different perspective. But I'm saying, how can you really tell? right?
I,
I mean, I guess the simplified thing to say, okay, the Knicks are winning, so screw it, no matter, whatever. But I'm saying, how can you really tell? That's why I think it is part philosophy, and I am going to concede. I do agree that it is personnel, not having Grimes out there in the beginning of the season. But I see a tremendous shift from what they were doing in the beginning of the season. Like with my own two eyes, I see like a huge shift from what they were doing from the beginning to what they're doing now. It's night and day.
It was mentioned a little today, and I think I mentioned this also last week. It's no different than a shooter that gets hot, and people around him feel like, oh, well, if Josh is hot, let me start chucking up some threes, and maybe
that's
I
right. You better shoot it.
So I think the same thing is happening on the defensive end. You get players that are coming in with a higher level of intensity, communicating better, fighting over screens more. Over screens more. So, well, damn, Josh is fighting over screens. Maybe I should start fighting over some screens. You know what I mean? And I think that, I think that it would be easy to dismiss the impact of the players and just say it's the coach or why wasn't RJ doing it before? But I do really believe that players come in and make an impact, and you see them doing something like, why they doing it? I better start doing it too.
Yeah. Is the defense sustainable?
Good question.
Well, based on some the point about having Grimes out there, if Grimes is not healthy, then it ain't. Basically, that's what the other argument is. So no, I think it is sustainable. I think it is sustainable if Tibbs continues with this philosophy, whether you got Grimes out there or not. I think it is sustainable. That's my opinion.
I think it's sustainable as well, but I think just to push back on your point and to highlight something Queen said earlier, Fournier was our starting two guard all of last year, and we was in the top 10. So, yes, I think whether it was Grimes starting, even if it was Cam still getting those minutes, whatever it was, I think Tibbs would have figured it out. I think history has shown that. So based off of history, what we've seen 2 years ago, what we've seen last year, and what was considered a bad year, we still ended up in that top 10, 11 defense.
Tony, real quick. I didn't go back to last season or the season before that. I was talking about earlier this season. That's what I was talking about. Last season was last season. Fournier's been out of rotation since week 1 of the season, right? So I'm talking specifically about this year. We had horrible defense at the beginning of this year. So
that's a fact. But even in that, I believed by the end of the year we would be in the top 10. I didn't think we would get here this fast. You know what I mean? But I thought we would start seeing them signs by January, and then by the end of the year we'd be in the top 10. Right now, I'm recalibrating. I'm like, how can we get in the top 5?
Well, last 7 games we are offensive rating and all that stuff. We are last 7 games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Tougher schedule coming up though. Some teams are struggling in the Eastern Conference, but the talent is still, talent is still there. So we'll get an opportunity to see with the games coming up. The way the top 3 players are playing now, does that change what you think the ceiling is, not necessarily for this particular team, but for the organization itself? So in other words, if they continue to play at a high level, can you have a championship contending team with 3 B-level players? I'm not talking about this particular team. Obviously, the front office would have to make some changes. But in this day and age, do you have to have a 1A or 1B, a superstar or whatever? Or if you build it a certain way, can you get away with having 3 B-level players playing at a high level now and build a championship contending team?
Steph, you asked 2 questions. You asked two
Okay.
questions. I was
All
excited.
right.
I was excited to answer the first one more than the
Well,
second.
answer the first one.
So I'm gonna dismiss the second. I'm just gonna answer the
Okay.
first. The,
Okay.
the first part that I heard was about the sustainability of these guys playing at this level and how could it impact the long-term future of the franchise. So before I even focus on necessarily winning a championship with three B-level guys, I think that the value of the
Or two
players
B's and a C, but go ahead.
or with the value of our top three, core three, big three, I think more than anything, them playing great allows the opportunity with their smart contracts. If one of them needs to get traded to get it to make a deal to get a A-list player, now I feel better that of course I love to keep Brunson, but I would think that RJ and Randall are probably players that would be more on the trading block if somebody needed to go to get an A-level talent. And I think that them playing great just increases their value and sets us up to be in a position to make a big play if one of them need to be included in the deal. So
But that's not the question. I get
that
that.
was the
I get that.
that
No.
was
So,
that's what. Am I the only one that heard that?
I guess what I'm trying to say is, listen, you're gonna always be in position to upgrade. Even Boston, right? When they thought Durant was available, even though Jaylen Brown is part of their core, right, on the championship contending team, they was willing to, if the reports are true, to swap him out for Durant. So that's always going to be the case. My question basically for this organization is, can you build a championship contending team with these three players as your best players? Forget the other players, because you're going to have to build differently around them. This team right now, as it's presently constructed, is not a championship contending team. So don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying.
She's asking a question, everybody.
Can those three be your best players on a championship contending team? Obviously, you have to fill the rest of the roster out if they continue to play well or at a high level.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't either.
Mm-hmm.
Tony?
You go first, Josh. I'll go last.
Oh, I was waiting for you. Hell no. There's no chance. And I'll give my reasons. Well, first of all, historically, I mean, you're talking about the last, was the Pistons was the last team to have players that are necessary or like B level. And Chauncey Billups, I think he's in the Hall of Fame, but Finals MVP. No. Oh, he's not, right? So Chauncey Billups, the best player on that team. Fringe Hall of Famer kind of play. That was the last team to do it. But the answer is no. I don't think so. You got to have
the only team to do it.
Right, and you gotta have at least one A guy that you can give the ball to and say, "Go get me a bucket," or to make plays for you down the stretch. I don't
definitely do that. I don't think Chauncey was a star or superstar in my estimation, but he
That's
was
why
clutch.
They called him Mr. Big Shot.
But he was
very similar
clutch
to Brunson. Excuse me, Queen.
Oh boy.
I'm just saying, if
in terms of
if
clutchness,
we're gonna compare that team to what we have, which I wasn't coming in here to do, I was gonna say yes because I knew everybody else was gonna say no.
Josh, that is a fair comparison. Tony, I'm saluting you on that. Josh, why
I was just saying he would be our Mr. Big Shot. As of right now.
Queen didn't ask specifically about the Knicks. She asked specifically about 3 B-level players, and can 3 B-level players win a championship or be a contender?
I'm sorry, Queen. Were you referring specifically to the Knicks, or were you being in general?
Well, both.
Reference was to
both, but once I reframe the question, can these 3 players? Can you build a championship contending team with these 3 players at their best? I'm not talking about Raggedy Randall, the first game,
Randall,
or busted up RJ. I'm just talking about them playing at a high level consistently. So in other words,
Their best version. Can you build
Yes.
their best version on a
Right,
championship?
because right
contender?
now I'm not sure if they're visiting this level in terms of how Randall is playing and RJ is playing, or
they
if they're
here to
gonna
stay.
live at this level.
I
I don't
got
know
you.
yet. But if they live at this level, right, the best versions of themselves, can you build a championship contending team with those three
Absolutely,
as
yes.
your best players? But you got to fill out the roster. You know, obviously, you got to fill out the rest of the roster.
Let me elaborate a little bit. You know, we heard Josh talk about the Pistons, and we seen these worlds of hoop say the only team. You know what I mean? But okay, let's say they're the only team.
Mhm.
We could talk about some other teams. I think for us to do it, obviously, number one, with any championship team, there's some luck that has to be involved.
Of course.
Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
It's not just like the best team wins every year. Her question wasn't like where we're a dynasty. If she said a dynasty where we're winning multiple championships, then no, I don't think so. But can we win one? Absolutely. And I think we have the Pistons reference as far as who've won it, but we have the Chicago Bulls. Let me not
Yeah.
say Chicago Bulls. We have the Miami Heat who made it to the finals on a crazy run, and since then have been somewhat considered the championship contender, minus this year, obviously. We have,
Fugazi. I said that it's been Fugazi with them. They made it that bubble year, and then that was that.
But again, you talking about getting to the finals and a chance to win it. They was there. You had the Hawks who made their run, Eastern Conference final, a game away from the finals, I believe. So can we get to the finals and win? I think it has to do with matchups. Number one, in the playoffs, you don't have to be the best team to get to the finals. You got to have the best matchups going into the playoffs to kind of get to the finals. The team that might have your number all year long, you might not even have to face them because the team that you beat all year long happened to beat them. So can we win a chip with these three guys playing at their best? I think we can. I think, to Queen's credit, we got to have some modified role players coming in. We might need a fourth player that's equal to their value. We might need another B level, like she said. But can it happen? Absolutely.
This happens every single year. The Knicks go on a winning streak. Everything is so fine and dandy. Oh,
She
we
didn't
don't
say
need any.
this team in particular.
I'm not talking about this team. I'm
I
talking
know.
about this team.
Specifically said,
I know.
I'm not saying this team in particular.
I know. But I'm just saying this happens every single year. The Knicks go on a little bit of a win streak, right? It looks like we're never going to lose again. And Knicks fans think that, oh, I don't want to trade for anybody. Let's keep everything the way it is. I don't want to mess.
That's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm
saying.
saying.
I'm not saying that's what you're saying. I'm just speaking in general here, right? Because
Okay.
I'm looking at people in the chat and I'm also listening to Tony. And this happens every single year that we think that the Knicks are never going to lose again, right? And we come up with this hyperbolic, these hyperbolic takes. Like there's no way that three B-level teams and three B-level players are going to lead a team to a championship in the NBA anymore. 2005 was 17 years ago. Different style of basketball. This is a new era of basketball now. You got to have that guy or two, but to not have one, I don't think that's possible.
But when you think about that guy, who's that guy? Basically, what the guy does is hit clutch shots for you down the stretch. We don't know if Brunson is going to turn it. So the point I'm trying to make
was going to be my question.
You don't have to be a superstar to be clutch. Is the point I'm trying to make. You don't have to be a superstar to be clutch. Chauncey Billups wasn't a superstar, but he was clutch. Down the stretch of a game, you can go to him. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm looking in terms of the Knicks constructing a championship team and who can be a part of it. Seeing them play now, I'm thinking, and when I say, I mean the best versions of themselves, right? I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's a high chance, but the Knicks, in terms of how they construct the rest of that roster, it would have to be high level. Like you couldn't just bring in anybody. You would have to construct that roster specifically shooters, defenders, and Randall, Brunson, and RJ would have to play at basically a higher level than they are right now.
Has history taught us is that sustainable? Even let's say you make a chip, and let's say you win the thing. I mean, we wouldn't care. Like we would shut up for the next 50 years if that happened, right?
Right.
But is it sustainable? Could you get 2 out of that?
So are you saying because you can't get 2 out of it, you shouldn't go for 1?
No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But
Okay.
I am. But
it doesn't matter if it's sustainable. I mean, listen, if we could do what the Lakers did when they traded all their young players and brought in AD, if we can do what the New Jersey did when they traded their young players and brought in KD and Kyrie, I would do that in a second.
Okay,
I would do that
and just win it right now,
and win it right now.
And I hear you.
And I would do that right now.
And the reason why I phrased it that way and why I asked about sustainability is because when teams have tried to do it that way, the percentages of that really truly being successful, even to get that 1 chip, is low. So therefore, that's why teams kind of strive for sustainability, because even when you might just miss out on it, because you have the sustainability in the next 2 or 3 years within that 3 or 5 span, you have higher chances of attaining your goal.
There's been teams that's been championship contenders for 5, 6, 7 years and haven't won.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
You understand what I'm saying? So what's your window? Boston, Philly, your window is longer, but you haven't won, right? But or you have a shorter window and you bring in your plays and boom, you're a championship contender and you win one. So I think when it comes to this fan base, it's this idea of there's certain steps, there's the way you're supposed to do it. No, you need to construct a championship contending team however you do it.
But is that how dynasties have done it? People that have been lucky, I'm just saying, I understand it's a small percentage and I get it. But I'm saying that sometimes you hit the lotto. And what I'm saying is that how dynasties thought? Let's just put something together and then call it a day.
No. How many dynasties have we seen over the years?
Dynasties are a rarity. One with Golden State.
But how many of them have we seen?
They're a rarity.
You get 1 per decade. You get 1 per decade. That's what dynasties are, because it's more than 1 year. So you're gonna get 1 per decade. So we've seen it throughout the NBA's history. We've seen dynasties in the 90s and the 2000s,
right?
Teens, and now in the this. So you're not gonna see much, but this happens once per decade. You're talking about 75 years in the NBA. There's been a dynasty in almost every decade.
Okay. Well, so are you saying though that the Knicks should try to build a dynasty, and if there's a chance to trade for a star or sign a star in free agency, that we shouldn't do it because we're trying to build a dynasty, and the only way to do that is through the draft? Like, what are we saying?
No, Queen, I'm with you. Queen, I'm with you. But I mean, I was just explaining D's point as far as the dynasties are concerned. I think what he's trying to say is more Knicks fans would want to see more sustained success with or without a championship, rather than what me and you want.
Oh, that's not me.
Exactly.
But Queen, I don't want you to misunderstand. I get exactly what you're saying. If we have the chance to pick up a prolific star to go ahead and bring in the chip within the next 2 or 3 years, you do that. You have to be slow behind the wheel not to go ahead and do that. Right. The sustainability and the dynasty talk that I'm talking about is steps. There are steps to it that it takes. Now, whether you're willing to take out that time to do it, you go ahead and do that. But at the same time, the job of a president of basketball operations or a GM is to always make their roster better. It's to always absolutely,
and that's the main focus, because it's not in that case. It's not about anybody that's on the roster right now. It's about the front office and how we feel about them and their ability to do that.
My thing is that while
everything they've done and shown so far, I mean, part of it is part, nicks and bruises that we dealt with over the years. This has been the best front office that we've had in years, the best coaching we've had in years, the best. I don't know if you can even say roster, but the results from the roster has been the best that we've seen in years. Like, it's hard not to be rational and say, let's let this thing keep going and keep building, as opposed to having the mindset that we've had over the years of let's fast track this. Let's 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 go all in now. There's a as a front office, there's a timing. There's timing. There's a perfect storm when you have to make that move. You know what I mean? If you make it too early, it can set you back 10 years.
I don't
If you
think it's
make it
about.
too late, you know what I mean?
I
It can
don't
set
think
you
it's
back.
necessarily about that, Tony. If the Knicks, I don't have a problem with what the Knicks were trying to do before. They just traded for the wrong guy. I think that's more what it is rather than a timing thing. Because if they trade for the right guy or they acquire the right guy, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation about
That
timing.
you talking about Melo?
No, because period in general, the Knicks and Bruises actually mentioned, you said, it's about timing. They have to do it at a certain time. And I think part of what you're saying is correct, but I also think the other part of it is bringing in the right person and the right guy. Specifically about Melo, I had no problem what they did about Carmelo Anthony. What they did afterwards was what messed it up. Right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's my point.
Right.
But all that is timing. You know what I mean? Like
That's not timing,
that's
that's
all
decision
front office.
making.
That's
That's
decision
all
making.
front office decisions, as
Correct.
opposed to personnel, the actual personnel that's playing.
Right.
You know
but
what I
not
mean?
timing. But not timing though. It wasn't timing. The Carmelo Anthony was right on par. That was right on time. We got the right person. It's just what happened.
But the next move they did that you're referring to, they were trying to fast track it. They was trying to get a piece in immediately, as opposed to letting Billups become a free agent and sign the next guy in. They were trying to jumpstart it.
Well, what if they did the same thing, but for someone that was better? That could have
Say that
helped.
again?
I said, what if they would have done the same thing, the same decision making with Billups, right? And then let him walk or whatever the case may be, but for the right guy.
Yeah, then that would have been the right move at the right time.
But that's what
They
I'm
got
saying.
Chandler as opposed to getting Chris Paul in. That's all I'm saying. Instead of waiting a year or however long it took, 2 years to get Chris Paul in, they tried to jumpstart it and say we could get Chandler now and compete now. So that's why I say timing. They jumped the gun in that aspect.
But
instead of waiting,
right.
They
but
went
I
too
will
soon.
say that. But what I will say is there's never any guarantees that you're gonna get so you're waiting to get a play. There's never any guarantees. Like we thought Kyrie and KD was coming. There really isn't any. You hear it through the grapevine. You might even hear it from an agent to wait. There's never
it's a tough
guarantees.
job.
And maybe they didn't trust it.
It's a tough job. You know what I mean? But in hindsight, obviously, I mean, I can't even say hindsight, because at the time I was thinking, what are you doing? He's an expiring contract.
Right.
And I'm sorry, they amnestied him, correct?
Yeah.
To have, you know what I mean? Like, why would you amnesty a guy that has 1 year left? Even that was bad decision making. If you're going to amnesty a guy, do it when you make a mistake and sign him to a 5-year deal or 4-year deal. Don't do it when he's expiring.
Right.
That's my only point.
And check this out, Steph. Just to quick, because this was the question you did ask. Just to clear it up real quick. If you have a window to win a championship, you take that window because you only have a 3 to 5 year window anyway. You have to take that as soon. But what I'm saying is that you could also build as well and not just put all your eggs in one basket, because the success rate of that has not been very high in the NBA. That's what I'm saying.
When you say build, what do you mean? Build both ways. What do you mean?
Yeah. So, like, for example, like, let's say, like, Cleveland's a good example of that, right? They had pieces before Donovan Mitchell came, right? That was like, wow, they can make the playoffs this year, right? But now with Donovan in the mix now, it put them up an extra, tier now, and saying like, wow, okay, can this team threaten for Eastern Conference Finals this year? So that was a window. Although they started from the ground up and they were developing, they took a window and they said, okay, well, we have a chance to bring in Donovan. We got proven commodity with Darius Garland and with Mobley. Let's bring him in. Let's see what we could do now. You take that window.
Now,
yes,
Steph,
this is what I will. Yeah,
that's why I was excited to respond to the first part of what you had said, because that's exactly where I feel that we are now. We're at a point now where if these three guys play great, we could continue with the long-term sustainability approach like Tony was elaborating on, or somebody could say, wow, okay, well, if you want our A-level star over here, well, with all those draft picks you got and the way Randall or RJ are playing, sure, we'll take him and one or two of those young guys and some draft picks, and now we could raise the stakes, and we'll be we could be in a very, very similar situation where Cleveland was, where maybe to a lesser degree where Boston was trying to make a play for Kevin Durant. So that's the part that excites me about their play.
Right. You could trade them off because they're playing at a higher level.
Yeah, now
This is
we don't have thumbs down Randall anymore. We got second half RJ playing second half RJ in the first half, and we got Brunson coming in at wow. I didn't know he was really a big shot Billups type of player. He's more than we saw him playing in Dallas. So now we got three guys that could be like real serious Robins, you know, on some championship level teams.
okay. This is what I'll say about building a team. There's multiple ways to do it, right? So right now, what it seems to me that the Knicks are doing is adding pieces, seeing how far they can go, making changes, trading off pieces if they can, adding pieces as they can to try to reshape this roster over time into a championship contender. I've said this, and I can't tell you on how many shows. There is a false narrative out there that the Knicks are not building. The Knicks are fast tracking. The Knicks are not trying to build from the ground up. The Knicks are not doing what Memphis and Boston and Golden State. To me, that's a false narrative. Those teams did not do anything special. They lost. They went into the lottery and they drafted a player that turned into the cornerstone of their franchise. They didn't do anything different than the Knicks. The Knicks lost, went into the lottery. The Knicks just didn't draft a cornerstone player. So let's stop acting like Memphis did something special.
Different. They actually hit on the picks as opposed to
correct. That's the only difference.
Even all those, but even all those teams, they haven't done anything different because they haven't won a chip yet. So you could argue, oh, they got the superstar already. They're in a better position than us, etc. But none of those teams have won yet.
But they contend.
They
contend for it though.
They're contending. But what the point I'm trying to make is people are acting like, oh, why the Knicks can't do what Cleveland? What did Cleveland do? They drafted Mobley.
I'm arguing your same point, Queen.
No, I get what you're saying. You're just saying
Garland haven't won yet.
Right, and they drafted Garland. But the point is,
and Sexton are very tradable, but they also had a very tradable player too that they drafted and proved that he had high NBA capability. So he was a strong asset based on his performance. So that's correct. And that's to Josh's point, and I agree 1,000%. That's why I said what I said initially is like you got to be able to not be too attached and be prepared to let somebody go to get somebody bigger and better. And
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm just trying to get at this narrative that the Knicks don't develop players. Look what Cleveland is doing. Look what Memphis is doing. But the difference is the Knicks haven't drafted any of those players. Had the Knicks drafted Steph Curry, the trajectory of this franchise would be much better. If the Knicks would have drafted Ja Morant, the trajectory of this franchise would have been much better. So let's stop acting like those teams are doing something the Knicks aren't doing other than drafting better.
And drafting better.
That's what they're doing better.
This is where I get upset. And not what you're saying, but that narrative. Because they really draft better? Because Steph Curry, we weren't able to draft him. Ja Morant, we weren't able to draft him.
We could have drafted Donovan Mitchell though, and Devin Booker. We could have drafted those two players. There's other players that we could have drafted.
Fair enough.
Well, what I'm saying is the difference was the draft, whether the Knicks didn't pick them or whether they didn't have the opportunity to pick them. But what I'm trying to point out is the process that the Knicks were in was the same process those other teams were in. So like people, the Knicks is fast tracking. The Knicks don't want to develop. Look what Cleveland is doing. Yeah, look what Cleveland did. They drafted Mobley.
And my last point to that is those we're holding the current regime under the fire for what the previous regimes have done.
Not me. I'm
talking. overall fan base. You know what I mean? When we I mean, even if we're talking about who we missed on, you know what I mean? That
Mhm.
wasn't this regime.
Halliburton.
But it
That
remains
was
to
the
be seen, though. It remains to be seen as time goes on,
I
right? If
mean,
Doran
yeah,
turns
yeah. If
into a
you talk
superstar,
about, like, to your point, adoring, right? Is that what you
I'm
just
kidding.
said?
I don't think he's gonna be a superstar,
No,
but
no,
I
but
just
you know that was to your point. You're right though, but
it
that's
remains to
yet
be
to be
seen.
seen.
What about
We're
Halliburton?
dwelling on the previous
Halliburton was
But
in check.
PTSD
Halliburton,
Halliburton was in check last night.
That's
and
yeah.
and and, and,
okay, but he's
and
still a better
Wiley
prospect than Obi
Zerby
Toppin,
made
in
it
my
though.
opinion.
Yo, that-
All right, so all right, let me phrase the question another way. With the way these three are playing, do you think we are a little further along than you thought we were at the beginning of the season in terms of moving in the right direction, the trajectory?
As of right now, I would say yes. I didn't expect this team to be 4 games over 500 at this point in the season, a third through the season. Definitely did not expect that. I still think they're a mediocre team. I still think they will finish mediocre as far as their record is concerned. But based on what I'm seeing now and them being able to win ball games, I think they're a little bit better than what I thought. I thought they would be at the beginning of the season, no doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll still say they're right on par because I thought they would have started better. So I'm surprised at where we are as far as that this current 7 game win streak. I'm happy with it. It's surprising in a sense because it feels like we've made a large leap. You know what I mean? Like we could really go back 2 weeks and go to Queens Court, Knicks and Bruises, nothing but Knicks. You know what I mean? We could go to any show from 2-3 weeks ago, and our demeanor, our talk was a lot different than where we are currently. So the fact that we're on this current 7 game win streak, yes, I'm a little surprised. But where we are record wise overall, I feel like we're right on pace. The exciting thing is, I feel like we could actually get better. You know what I mean? Like we could get up there to fifth seed again. You know what I mean? Fourth seed. Fourth seed's gonna be hard. I think we could get fifth seed by the end of the year.
How many wins do you have?
How many did I have coming
Yeah, oh
into the
yeah,
season?
yeah. Right.
Um, I think I had 45.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I think I had 45.
I have 40. I have 41, 41 or 42. But if things broke right, I could see them winning more. Let me read this super chat. Brooklyn Butch, appreciate you. Funny thought. What happens if Grimes becomes a 15 to 18 point scorer with what the Knicks are currently doing? That puts them in the championship level. Is that too wild to think can happen? I just don't think Grimes has the usage on this particular team
Wow.
to average 15 to 18 points unless he's shooting like 69%.
Damn.
Like just basically hitting every shot he takes. I just don't see him having the usage. But in terms of his career, I mean, yeah, I mean it's
You don't
you
think
know,
his usage will fluctuate based off how he's shooting? So
I don't think he's gonna get that many shots to do that because RJ Brunson and Randall take most of the shots on this
what
team.
what do you think? What do you think is if you had to do an over under on shots per game for Grimes? What would you put it at? What would you put his shots per game at?
I would think he's getting what, 8 to 10 shots a game.
I wish.
It's not even that high.
Yeah, I would
Oh
put
yeah,
that
I
for
think
sure, but
I think he's gonna need 10 shots per game for him
but
to.
even if he shoots 50%, that's just 10 points.
I
Even
mean,
and if they
depending on how many threes are in that
this
and how
brother's at
many
6 field goal attempts a game.
yeah, he
free
would have
throws.
to he would have to hit 5 3-pointers a game to get 15 points. Like he just doesn't get that many
Yeah. I
He
agree
just
with
doesn't
you.
get that many shots to do
Plus,
that.
too, Brunson's like about 26, 27 ball usage. Randall's like about 25, 26, and RJ's about 24, 25. And then IQ comes off the bench. It gives you about 20, 21, 22. Not enough
Right.
shots to go around for it.
That's that.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's over 80 between the four of them alone.
If you're in the front office head right now, because they might be a little surprised as well. Do you think
Wait a minute.
they're staying pat with this team for this season, or do you think they're like, whoa,
Mm.
Good
oh, I
question.
see a
Wait
little
a minute.
something here.
Wait a minute.
Maybe we should try to upgrade this roster now.
I'm perplexed. How can the front office be surprised, but the coach was allegedly on the hot seat? It can't. I mean,
I don't think he ever was, Shuttle. I don't think he ever was. I think that was the
I don't
fans
think-
reaction in that.
I don't think he ever should have been, and I don't believe the front office necessarily had him on the hot seat either. But I'm just going with the flow here right now. How can I be surprised by somebody that was allegedly on the hot seat? And I mean, I don't know. I think the front office knew that this was a youth movement, and Fournier wasn't really a star. You had to infuse quickly and Obi into the lineup. You had a new guy coming in with Brunson, so it's going to be some. We got to see how that's going to work. We don't know with him being the lead how that's going to play out. Randall had a real funky year. We don't know if he's going to come back as the year before or the year before that. So it was a lot of question marks coming in this year. So I don't think the front office really knew. I mean, that's why we were saying it's like, well, they'd probably be a middle of the road team. We could, if things work out, they could be a 5th seed. If things don't really work out, they're gonna be like a 10th seed. So I think it was so many question marks. For me, I had no clue coming in. Really a strong position on it. And I don't think the front office did either.
I know, but now
I
that they're
I
watching
think
this team right now, where do you think if you
Oh,
none of us know with certainty? Where do you think
now
are they
we
in?
saying no. Now we saying we cooking. We might need to swing something before the deadline to maybe we're not gonna go for the home run like we was gonna do for Mitchell in the off season, but we're gonna see if we could get a small play that could take us from playing borderline team to maybe we could get to like a 4 or 5th seed team.
Josh, what do you think the front office is
in a
thinking?
more secure way. So I see
Well,
something
Queen,
like that potentially.
Queen, I don't think the plan has changed at all. I don't think that the Knicks front office is surprised by what's happening right now. I think they were kind of like, well, if it happens, it happens. Our whole goal right now is to develop. And if a move comes along for someone, a star player that we can go out and get and trade, some assets, a way to go get that player, they're going to make that move. But until that happens, they're going to continue with what they got. And the only small move I can see them making trade deadline is something to get money off the books. Fournier, do some contract stuff, acquire a couple more assets like that. But as far as something major, I don't think that's going to happen until the right person comes available and they're able to make that move at that point. But I don't think nothing has changed from their philosophy based on a 7-game win streak or anything else.
Josh, to put on your GM hat, right? Like, so, it's your job to upgrade the roster, right? So if you want to make an upgrade in order to make like a push for the playoffs, especially and maybe a second round, right? What would be the top of your priority list in order to come with before the trading deadline is over?
You talk as far as who we should acquire?
Yeah. Like what type of personnel we're looking for? What position? What type of identity of a player we're looking for?
A star wing or guard. Okay. A star wing or guard. I think if the Knicks make that move, I think they jump to the next level, get to a second round. But as of right now, I think this is a first round team.
Did you say or you want a star at the wing or guard position?
Star at the guard or wing position.
Okay. What if you can't get that? And you got it, and you just don't make a move, or what do you do?
Well, I wouldn't make a move for anything below that unless you're talking about shedding salary, making a move for salary or asset gaining purposes. I'm not doing any middle of the road players. No one else that's on the same level as what we have now. Because to me, I think it's overkill at that point. You're not taking your team any further. Now, unless if that move is about dumping salary or gaining some assets in return, then I can see them doing it. Maybe that's an expiring contract coming back. But anything short of that or acquiring a star player, I don't think they do.
Right. So if you traded Evan Fournier and you got like Jay Crowder back and his contract's expiring, you're okay with something like that?
Yep.
Gotta be.
Yep.
Yeah. I for me, even if you're not what I don't want the Knicks to do is use assets that they need to use, that they're going to need to get a star. I don't want them to do that. However, without doing that, if you can upgrade this roster, do it. I don't think that the Knicks need to sit around and wait for a star to become available. If there's an opportunity to upgrade the roster and you're not giving up the assets that you're going to need if one was to come available, then do that. Then do that.
Queen,
How I
Queen,
see the Knicks.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One second. How I see the Knicks moving is continuing to upgrade the team. So basically, evolving into a championship contending team, getting better, small moves here and there until a star breaks loose. I don't see the Knicks just standing pat waiting for a star to come. I see them making smaller moves.
Yeah. Queen, what would an upgrade to the roster look like in your opinion? Because to me, real quick, to me, I think if they acquire someone, let's say that's on the same level as some of the guys that they have on the team right now, to me, yeah, the roster improves because you're adding another player in the fold. But is our win total going to improve necessarily? Are we going to be better than a mediocre team? So, what does an upgrade look like for you outside of a star player?
Okay, so just because you make a move and it doesn't take you to the Eastern Conference Finals doesn't mean the move shouldn't be made. Okay, so for me, if the Knicks brought in a 3-and-D wing that's not a superstar, right, and that helps us, do it. Like, don't say that. Oh, well, that move is not gonna add 8 wins to the team. That is not gonna get us to the second round. So don't do it. Right now, the Knicks don't even have a bench. The only person on the bench in terms of scoring wise is IQ, and he's struggling right now. Who's on our bench? You're not gonna get any scoring from Sims. Right now, our bench is averaging 23 points a game. So after
and IQ's averaging 10 of them.
So you got IQ, iHeart, Sims, and I'm missing
Obi, who's been out.
Right, but Obi's not in the rotation. And Deuce, right. You're not getting any offense from those guys. You're getting a lot of defensive support from those guys. Okay, fine. But so if we have an opportunity to upgrade our bench, yes, I would definitely do that. And I'll tell you something.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think that? And to me, Tony brought up this point earlier about a small move earlier this season, and I disagree with it from the simple fact of, don't you think bringing in someone like that who is not going to take us to a next level, who potentially you have to give up some of your assets for, right? Because those players like that are not going to come cheap, right? Do you think a move like that is short-sighted? To me, I think it is, because if it's not taking
what you're giving up,
right? And that's what I'm saying.
It depends on what you're giving up.
If it's a short-term move to take you to the second round of the playoffs,
but Josh,
what is the next level?
Piece by piece, step by step, piece by piece.
If you're going from first round exit or you know what I mean to second round exit, that is an upgrade, regardless of how you look at it. So if that one guy brings you from, you know what I mean, from making the playoffs and getting eliminated to winning the first round and then going 7 in the second round, that's an upgrade. You know what I mean? It may be a minimal upgrade, but it's still an upgrade. And as long as it doesn't hurt you long term, and it becomes, depending on who we're talking about, it's an asset moving forward, whether it's for the big move that we all anticipate or you know what I mean. I think a small move now, even if it doesn't get you to a championship, as long as it's an upgrade, it's an upgrade. And that's my point.
Making your team better. And look, the Knicks got 11 first-round picks. You're not going to need all 11 to get a star.
I agree with that.
You're not going to need all 11 to get a star. So if you give up a protected first and a player for somebody that's going to slide into your rotation, that's a 3-and-D guy that's going to fit with this team that doesn't have a lot of ball usage, I would do it.
Well,
And
Quinn, earlier you said you wouldn't trade some of the draft picks. So earlier you did say that.
Well, what I meant was I wouldn't trade a lot of our draft picks. I wouldn't trade enough of our draft picks to the point where we don't have enough left to go after a star. But we have enough that we can still have some to go after a star and can still upgrade this roster. And I'm going to go a step further. And I know this is going to be very unpopular.
Here we go, y'all. Drum roll.
This is going to be very unpopular. I'm okay giving up some of our 1 or 2 of our young players to get an older, I'm not talking about a grizzly veteran, but a proven player that can help this team. Like, I feel like when you look at the fan base, I feel like the fan base is more invested in individual players than they're invested in the Knicks getting better. I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm not going to bring in that player because McBride is going to get less minutes. I'm not going to bring in that player because this player is going to get less minutes. Is the team going to be better? Is this going to help our team evolve and take the next step? That's what I'm more concerned about than McBride, who has a ceiling anyway, right?
Queen,
So,
you might as well get into specifics.
Well, if it was,
what young players are you dangling first?
It's not necessarily any particular. Everybody is on the table depending on what the trade is, and that's for every player on our roster. Depending on what the trade is. I think that as much as I like our young guys, I don't see high ceilings for them. They're rotation players. They're helping us. I love it. I appreciate what they're doing. But if somebody else comes along and it allows us to get better, I appreciate your service. I appreciate, what you've done for us.
I mean, as a Knicks fan, that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be a fan of the team, and I mean, even I've been guilty of it, being attached to individual players, but I'm a Knicks fan first, always. You know what I mean? I can follow my individual player on whatever team he ends up on, and still follow him. But I'm a Knicks fan first. Some of my biggest arguments with some of my friends is because they're LeBron fans first. So wherever he goes, I'm a Heat fan, I'm a Cavs fan, I'm a Lakers fan, and I'm like, you really not. You shouldn't say that, and just say you're a LeBron fan, because you follow him wherever he goes. But I'm a Knicks fan, so if I like a player, I can still follow him from afar. But
no, that's what I did with Carmelo.
Yeah.
But let me ask a question. I wasn't that big on Jay Crowder. I know a lot of it's not a lot, but some players, on some of the panels that I've been on has been high on Jay Crowder. Can he play the 3 or the 4? Is he at a point in his career where he can only play the 4?
I think he can play both. And minutes, situational, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because of his role, and he's never been like, a star player, the go-to guy, or you know what I mean, like even a focal point, whether it's defensively or offensively. I think he'll be a spot guy anyway. So yeah, he could play. Yeah, he could switch, which obviously we know who this team likes to do. But he communicates in a switch, so he'll talk to you and say, "Oh, we're switching. I got him. Oh, get him." So I think in that aspect, it doesn't matter. It's almost like that positionless basketball. He fits in the system.
He can also punch somebody in the face.
The toughness that we're missing. So I guess the question I have for the panel is, if we found a player, and I don't know if it's Crowder. I haven't seen Crowder play in.
Well, he hasn't played all yet this year.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But if the Knicks were to come across a player like Crowder, and we felt like this player can help the team, would you be hesitant to bring that player in if that meant less minutes for Obi Toppin, or if that meant less minutes for McBride, or if that meant less play? You know what I mean? Like, what's
I don't.
your thought on it?
If Jay
You
Crowder
you
wants
gotta
to
do the
take Obi
poll,
Toppin's
Queen.
minutes, he could take his minutes. That's not a problem. You play Crowder 15 to 20 minutes because when you're looking to get the stars and stuff like that you want, you still have to build a prototype of sorts in order to, one, attract the star to come, and number two, in order to get better upgrades as you move along. So I'm just throwing a name out here, like say Jay Crowder's this year, right? And I'm just throwing a name just to make a point.
Yeah.
And OG Anunoby's next year. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you upgraded on a
Right.
similar type of player. And then that's how the stars come. Stars just don't come and try to, save the day with the cape on. They want to come to something that's sustainable. They want to come to something that has a good culture, that has something that they could come in and win.
Strong foundation.
And that's why I'm saying I feel like the Knicks, as to me, there's the Knicks have their three best players, and then a lot of young guys. And I think at some point the Knicks are going to have to decide which young guys they're going to keep and which young guys they're going to move off of.
Steph, I think it's
to upgrade the roster. Yes.
I think that's a tremendous question. And I just want to say, I want to revise my take a little bit because listening to y'all, I think you are right. I think the Knicks could find a way to kind of, Tony, don't laugh now. I do admit when I was the case of it.
That's growth, man. That's growth.
I revised my take listening to you guys. I wasn't
That's
even
growth,
big on Crowder.
man.
No, but
I
I guess
listening to you guys.
I'm doing it within the same show. So I do think there is a way for the Knicks to improve their team, and I don't necessarily think it has to come from advancing in the playoffs or anything like that. Because a player like Jay Crowder and my guy's Pat Beverly, you know what I mean? Pat Beverly, Jay Crowder.
Josh, I didn't want to say it.
Listen, I gave you the alley-oop, Queen.
I didn't want to say it, but I was talking to Tony today. I said, listen, we bring in Jay Crowder and Pat Bev. This is a different team in terms of the defense and the toughness. But the Knicks fam is going to be talking about Obi Toppin and McBride.
Yeah, taking minutes away from them. That's why it's a tremendous question. I asked this question before. And because you already know what's going to happen. The Knicks don't do as well as people thought they were going to do. They get knocked out in the first round or they don't win as many games. And then it's like, well, you wasted your time bringing said player in, Pat Beverly or Jay Crowder. And I think players like that, having players on your roster, particularly this team, is extremely important. Extremely, because they bring something that this team does not have. It may not necessarily result in wins. It may not take them to another round of the playoffs. But I think this Knicks team is missing that. And I think a lot of young players that we have on this team can learn from them in that respect. I just don't want us to bring these players in, and then the team doesn't do that well, and all the fans are like, well, you wasted your time. You could have gave those developmental minutes to McBride or to Obi, or because that's going to come. You know what I mean? So I think that's a tremendous question, and I agree with you 100%.
And listen, Pat Bev is not playing more than 12 to 14 minutes. Like there's just not a lot of time before behind Brunson anyway. But that toughness, the Knicks just don't have it. No. They just don't have it.
That's locker room necessities.
Can I just elaborate? Because like you said, we spoke about this behind the scenes. But here's the thing. You bring in those two guys in these hypothetical scenarios, it's not like we're losing a Deuce McBride. It's not like we're necessarily losing Obi Toppin. So now you have mentors. I think Pat Bev is the perfect mentor for Deuce McBride. But at the same time, you're concerned, Josh, about it not working. If it doesn't work, you go right back. You know what I mean? You go right back to Deuce.
Yeah, they don't want your contract.
And you kind of figure it out. The thing with Jay Crowder, he hasn't played all year. So us going after him and bringing him in, he doesn't have to play immediately. Like, matter of fact, coming into Tibbs' system, he's not going to play immediately. He's going to have to get conditioning. He's going to have to show it in practice. You know what I mean? Like, so it's going to be a window for him to get back or get into the circle of trust to even get into that rotation. And
a move like that can help us twofold, because we can kill two birds with one stone. Fournier's contract expires at the end of next year, so you can get his money off the books this year, so it'll help us in that regard. But another underrated part of bringing in one of those people, we talk all the time about the mentorship and the toughness for Julius freaking Randle. Having a player like that can challenge him and can challenge him in positive ways and in negative ways if they have to. I think having a player like that helps Julius Randle mature. Like that situation where Julius Randle got kicked out the game and no one came to stop Julius Randle, yeah, it's all on him. Right. But if you have a player like that on the floor that can check Julius or on the team that can check him, I think that does dividends because none of these young guys are going to listen to Julius. None of them. None of them are going to do that.
And in case of point to that, Josh, Pat Beverly, Minnesota last year, look at Minnesota this year. Coaching matters.
He changed. Yeah. You're right. Well, you're right. And you look at them, they missing something. Minnesota is missing, and not just Cat who's injured, right?
And just to go back, you want to talk about like character and things. You go back a couple years with Jay Crowder getting traded from, I believe, I don't even know if it was Miami. The Suns or that, but getting traded to Boston, him and Isaiah Thomas, and them being told, hey, we're going to lose, we're going to tank, we're going to get a good draft pick. And him and Crowder and Isaiah was like, nah, we not losing, we winning. And they did. This is pre-Jaylen Brown, pre-Jason Tatum. Maybe one of them was there for a year or so. But I'm saying my point is he's a winner. He's not trying to lose. He's not trying to lose if the organization is trying to lose. And he's going to do what it takes to win. You know what I mean? Like, that's not even in his vocabulary.
All right. Let me read this super chat. Brooklyn Butch, appreciate you. I beg to differ. Jalen is tougher than Patrick.
What if we have them both?
What if we have them both? But I mean, the monster, like somebody that's going to get in somebody's face, like a different type of tough. No doubt Jalen Brunson is tough. I'm not denying that. But I mean, like a different type of tough, like
a Charles Oakley type, someone like that, someone like that can just kind of reel them in. You know what I mean? When you need to,
right? Before I get into next week's games,
you guys ever watch? If you guys watch baseball, like Randy Johnson, like had that fastball where sometimes when you went to go hit, you were worried if he might hit you with the pitch. Yeah. You kind of need that level of a player on your team to just have other players on the opposition make them just be like, yo, let me not do too much. I'm not going to foul too hard. I'm not going to get nobody's face too crazy because if I do, I know that Crowder, I know that so-and-so player over there is going to, give me the business. And this team is just too nice.
Yep.
Right. Brunson's tough. Brunson, don't get me wrong. Brunson, he is tough, but he's not a tough guy. And there is a difference.
Right. Kerry Cox, we hear you, but I don't think Toronto's giving up OG Anunoby.
I don't know. I've been kind of doing my Birdman hand rubbing on Toronto, hoping they continue to nosedive. If they continue to nosedive, he might be worth overpaying for.
But why would they get rid of him though? I know they're unhappy. They've been unhappy with Gary Trent because of his defense at times. I don't see. I mean, listen.
I'm just putting the Birdman rub hands on them, right. and hoping that something they'll continue to nosedive, and maybe we can overpay a little bit. They love their assets. And maybe we could make something happen. And he could come here and be a 6-man or put Grimes in a 6-man role. And oh boy.
Well, I mean, we can't overpay too much because you're going to still need a star. So you can't, you got to be prudent in terms of what you give up if he does become available. But the Knicks right now, 9-man rotation, playing very well. I'm not sure when Obi is coming back. Now, I'm thinking that we need to extend the rotation. We're playing 9, but McBride is playing 14 minutes. Sims is only playing 8 minutes. So those guys are really playing a lot of minutes. When Obi Toppin comes back, what's your best guess? They expand the rotation or he's situational?
Sims gets thrown back to the bench. First. Okay, go ahead, brother. Sorry.
No, go ahead, D, and then Tony, then Josh, and then we'll come around the DJ shuttle.
Yeah, I think Sims gets put back on the bench. Getting all Spidey, Webby, and Dusty and stuff like that. And Obi would probably be about 12 or 13 minutes. Julius is playing too well. And Obi, for me personally, hasn't shown that type of leap in his third year where it would warrant him to play anywhere between 18 to 20 minutes. I don't see him nowhere near there, especially the way Randall's playing. So I think 12 or 13 minutes for Obi, and Sims gets thrown back to the bench.
Okay, so they stay 9 and Obi replaces Sims. Okay.
Yeah.
Tony.
I concur.
Okay.
I think they go 10, but Sims minutes go down.
How much lower can they get?
Well, I think
That's a good
to
question.
Josh's point, I think Sims minutes are based off of. I think Sims minutes are based off of foul trouble. You know what I mean? I think it becomes a real situational thing. You know what I mean? Mitch got 4, Hartenstein got 4. You'll see Sims come in and get a couple 4 extra minutes, 2 extra minutes. You know what I
with
mean?
some DMPs in there. Sims will have some DMPs.
Yeah,
in a few games,
absolutely.
something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that.
DJ Shuttle. Oh, let me tell you what I would like to see happen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, go ahead, DJ. Oh, DJ Shuttle. Do you think they
Listen.
expand the rotation when Obi comes back, or what do you think happens?
Obi's not going to be in the bench. Let's be realistic. Obi's not going to be in the bench. I don't know how anybody's thinking that's going to happen. Obi's going to be playing, but there probably won't be too much too quick expected. So I could see him and Sims maybe splitting some of those minutes. But I know it's not a lot, but
4 and 4.
I mean, no. Maybe Hardenstein gets a little less minutes, So, and then Sims gets some at center, a little bit at power forward, depending on how he's always playing. I mean, right now, it depends on when he comes back, because if he were to come back today, the team just won 7 in a row and you haven't been in the lineup. So, if it ain't broke, don't break it. So we gotta ease you in slowly right now, my brother, Obi. And but he is gonna play.
Wow.
Shit, God forbid we 11, 12 and 12 run when he comes back. You know what I mean? Like, but one game at a time.
Listen, this is what I'm seeing from Tibbs, and I hope it continues. And to me, Tibbs is being like a little gangster right now. Like, I'm playing the players that's playing hard. I don't care about your contract. I don't care about this. I don't care about my relationship with you. We trying to win right now. I gave everybody ample time, ample rope to kind of get yourself together, and it hasn't happened. If that continues, I'm not putting Obi back in the lineup, period. Obi to me is just situational. I'm not taking Sims out for Obi. Obi's not going to rebound like Sims. Obi's not going to defend on the perimeter.
There you go, Quay. That perimeter defense.
Like Sims. Okay, Obi has the 3-point shot, but lately we've been doing all right. Hitting our 3-pointers. Let me finish. And I'm not taking iHeart out. Now, don't get me wrong. Defensively, iHeart knows where he's supposed to be. He's between his man and the basket. They just score anyway. You know what I mean? They just score anyway, but he's in position, But he gives us those second chance points. And I said this before, when Mitch get the second chance points, he puts it up. When iHeart gets him, it's a tap in, or he grabs it and he sends it back out. But again, he gives a second chance point. What is Obi? Obi's not going to be on the boards like iHeart. iHeart plays 8 minutes, he got 6 rebounds. He played 10 minutes, he got 8 rebounds, 5 of them offensive. And even though he's not a great defensive player, he's still better than Obi. Yep. So in my opinion, either you're going to expand the rotation to 10, but if you keep it at 9, the way we're playing, Obi has to be situational. Matter of fact, you might hear reports that the injury is lingering.
Oh boy!
And he had a setback.
You talk about reports. You might hear reports of trading block and such and such is interested in such and such. So,
well, what about Uncle Queen? You did mention earlier that the bench needs some more scoring. What about that part?
The bench, you're right.
Now,
You're
what about
right.
now?
Yeah,
Obi's
you're
not
right.
going to be like 30 points per
You're
game
right.
off the bench or nothing like that. But what about
But
that?
he was
part?
averaging like 10 or 11. He
Right.
was. You're
And,
you're absolutely right. But I'm just hoping we can get the bench. Listen, the Knicks right now do not bring in any other player that can't shoot and play defense. We don't need you. That's it. We got enough players right now who operate on the ball. We need shooters and defenders in the same package. Not a shooter that can't defend, not a defender that can't shoot,
Correct.
in the same package. That's what we need.
And if that's the case, Steph, if we're going with that frame of logic, then Obi needs to be out of here by trading deadline. Then Cam Reddish needs to be out of here by trading deadline. And then you're going to have to get something back in return that's going to help you this year that fits that prototype of that 3-and-D you're talking.
I mean, that's just how I'm seeing it. I know everybody can see it differently, but that's just how I see it. We need 3-and-D play. And when you look at Toronto, and they're struggling right now, but every player on that player is a Nick Nurse type of player. They defend, they shoot, they can do more than one thing.
it's
Well, let's-
almost
let's
We
take-
know
like
who
let's-
Tibbs
president of
is, and we
basketball
giving him
operation.
all of these players. That's not his type. Fournier, Kemba Walker, Obi Top. Those are not his type of players.
So let's take one
And
of these
that
guys.
was my point. I'm sorry, D. That was my point for certain people, certain fans that act like Tibbs changed when you can make an argument that he's actually doubling down on his own philosophy and playing the defenders more. And you know what I mean? As opposed to just trying to
use
pull
who
shorts.
you think that he should be playing, the higher rated Cam Reddish versus the less heralded Quentin Grimes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. All right. Anything else
Shout out
before I
to-
get
shout
into
out to
next
Coach-
week's?
just shout out to Coach Tibbs. That's what I'm gonna say. Talk about the biggest change in the 7 games in the season. Shout out to Coach Tibbs. All I know is people said the coach on the hot seat. Steph, I remember that question, and I was like, "What? Are y'all crazy? Is you dumb?" That's what I remember. That's how I looked at it. Now where we at?
Wow. Until the next to the 3-game losing streak, and then it's all gonna
Ain't
come
no
back.
more losing streaks.
Listen, this is
All right.
this is it.
Anything-
You gotta your season. You gotta have, unless
Ups and
you're
downs.
a 65 win team, you're gonna have some valleys, man. But that's part of the journey, man. That's like life. You gotta look at this like life, man. You have a tough time, you lose a job, or you have a catastrophe in your house, you have a flood. These things happen, B. This is regular life. You know what I'm saying? You got to incorporate life principles into how you expect the season to go. Like, you're gonna have ups and downs, but you gotta be a long-term visionary. And we coach for the end of the season, not the first couple of games.
All right. We'll see how things go along. Anything else that you wanted to say you didn't get an opportunity to say before we get into next week's games and predictions? Any question you had for the panel? Anything before we do that? Nope. All right. So this is our games for next week. It's a 4-game week this week. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. We got 4 games this week. Tomorrow we play Golden State, 15-16, 4-6 over their last 10. They're 11th in the Western Conference, 11th in offensive rating, 20th in defensive rating. They're without Steph Curry, who's injured, is going to be out for a few weeks, but trust and believe they're still going to be a formidable team for the Knicks. Wednesday, this is a back-to-back. We play Toronto, 13-17, so they're 4 games under 500, 2-8 over their last 10. 10th in the Eastern Conference, 13th in offense, 17th in defense. They still have good players on that team. They're struggling, but I remember calling the Knicks team Tylenol because a team would come in who's struggling, and they would get better against the Knicks. Another team is struggling, they would get better against the Knicks. So these teams that are struggling, okay, the expectation is that the Knicks still play well enough to beat them. We see Chicago again. So within a span of 10 games, we will have seen them 3 times. And I think we only played them 3 times this season. They're 11-18, 3-7 over their last 10 games, 21st in offensive rating, 18th in defensive rating. The Knicks beat them twice in Chicago. I know they're playing at home, but it's tough to beat a team 3 games in a season, let alone in a span of 10 days. So we shall see. And then Christmas Day, Philadelphia 16-12. They playing well, 7-3 over their last 10. They're 5th in the Eastern Conference, and at their top half of the league in both offense and defense. They're 15th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating. The Knicks right now are 14th in offensive rating and 11th in defensive rating, sitting at 17 and 13th and 6th in the Eastern Conference. Any thoughts on these 4 games? Any particular game stand out for you that you're interested in watching, or more interested in watching than the others?
Can I go first?
Absolutely.
Philadelphia, we played them one time already. We beat them without Joel.
Oh, we did play them. Okay, yes. You're right.
But to answer the question, that is the game that I'm really looking at saying, and then the Toronto game. 2, first of all, divisional opponents, right? I think that's going to be very important. Eastern Conference opponents. Toronto has not been playing the best basketball, obviously. They're struggling right now, but they always play us tough. In Philadelphia, they will have Joel Embiid back. They will have him back, so we got to be able to defend him. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Harden, if Harden is even there, or what's going on with Philadelphia right now. But that's another team that always plays us tough. It's on Christmas Day, matinee affair. You know how that goes already. So those are the 2 games I'm really looking at. As far as Golden State without Curry, I think they're beatable, much beatable without Curry, obviously. Jordan Poole, we got to be able to watch him because he can go off. He can light it up. And Chicago, they don't have a point. They don't have a point guard, so I'm not really worried about Chicago as much. So
I think the big thing with this 4 games is Knicks are 10-6 on the road, 7-7 at home.
Right.
And this is an opportunity for them to showcase that they can win at home and play as well at home as they did on the road. Another thing this 4 games brings too as well is that it continues to answer the questions that we have about the sustainability of the defense.
Right.
The sustainability of Tibbs' plan and what he's enforced, because NBA teams adapt. And one thing that Indiana showed you last night that NBA teams are going to do, they're going to adapt to what you're doing. And you could tell they threw different looks at him that were attacking RJ, that were attacking Randall, and stuff like that. That's why Naismith was able to go off a little bit for the quarter 3 and off the dribble a little bit on him. Certain things that the Knicks were running, the Pacers were adapted to it. So you're going to continue to see that. But this week, and of course, throughout the season, it's very interesting to see how this team will hold up.
And I think that's why it's important to have that guy, whether they adapt or not. That guy can still get to his spot and hit his shot. Let's do Tony and then you DJ show.
I'm gonna say 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. I say that because 1 game at a time. But yeah, they're all winnable, to be honest. Let's see. Man, I think the most dangerous game, honestly, is Chicago. These were the hoops talked about adapting. We haven't played Golden State. We haven't played Toronto. We haven't played Philly. There's no adapting.
We
played Philly. This was a.
We did play Philly,
and we played Golden. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't remember.
Well, excuse me. Well, again, I think they're all winnable. Obviously Curry's out. Josh talked about pool and the pool party and all that. But if we play the way we've been playing, we could beat all these teams. I still think Chicago's the toughest one, considering they probably have the most recent footage and recent history of what we've been doing during this stretch. We were different teams against Philly when we played them. We were a different team when we played Golden State. And then I agree as far as importance, Toronto and Philly. We have our divisional record has directly impacted our seeding already at different parts of the year this time. I think we're 1-2. So if we could pick up 2 games and be 3-2, you know what I mean. Now we have a chance to have that tiebreaker within the Atlantic Division. So
We're 1-2 in the division.
Correct.
I believe so.
No, we beat
yeah,
Philly.
Atlantic
We beat Philly. We beat Boston.
Okay.
I have
Look,
here conference
last
was
I looked,
12-6.
I think it's 2-1 because we lost to Brooklyn.
2-1.
And the
'cause
conference
we
was
lost to
12-6, and in the division we're 1-2.
Yeah.
How? We beat
One and-
Boston and we beat Philly.
Just telling you what I'm reading, brother.
And that's
we
what
lost,
I read
we lost
too.
to Brooklyn. And we lost to Brooklyn. That's why I'm confused. But either way.
I'm pretty sure the standards say we 1-2 in our division.
Did we beat
so.
Boston?
No, we lost by
We didn't beat-
15.
No, we lost to Boston 133 to 118.
Yeah.
Saturday,
We
November
lost to them?
5th. Yeah.
Yeah, remember they made like 29 threes?
Oh yeah, they
Oh,
took like
yeah,
50
yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right. So we lost to Boston and Brooklyn, and we beat Philly. So we are 1-2.
Correct.
That's correct.
Right.
Sorry.
So good.
So yeah, divisional games important. Chicago game probably the toughest, just because they're the only team that could actually kind of adjust to where we're at right now currently. But all games are winnable. I feel like, and if we could win that first 3, you know what I mean, and have that momentum going into Christmas and Philly, and lay the game directly ahead of us. You know what I mean? Who knows what that's gonna mean for the standings and positioning wise, and you know what I mean, what it could do for our confidence moving forward.
Yeah, I really hate to do that because there's 3 games to play before it. and to have the letdown of being 1-2 or something crazy going into Philly. But I mean, I look at the first 3 games as like, kind of where we were last week when we met on Monday. It's like, all right, well, where are we? I was like, well, listen, we need to beat Chicago these 2 games. They're not really playing great, and I know they got 2 good players, or 3 good players, but you need to beat this team. And Indiana, you need to beat them too. And I feel that way right now. Golden State without Steph Curry, they're gonna try hard, but I'm sorry. You need to beat that team. Toronto, 2-8 in the last 10 games. No, this can't be the Tylenol Knicks. You got to beat Toronto. It's a division game. It's a conference game. And it's a team that you got to really put your foot on their neck. And Chicago, like, listen, I'd already knocked you out twice. I got to knock you out again. That's how I see the first 2 games. And so I'm excited. The Knicks actually playing on Christmas Day and having a very flourishing season against a division team, and a chance, to Tony's point, to maybe leap them in the standings. To Josh's point, I think also, these could have long-term ramifications and tiebreakers, things like that. But the fact that it's a holiday game, it's Embiid, it's Harden, it's the Garden. I mean, what could be more attractive on the calendar than that, especially if you win the first 3 games and we looking at a potential 11-game winning streak. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, if the Knicks go 2-2, I'm happy. Do I want them to win all 4 of these games? Absolutely. But for me, I'm looking for sustainability, like Dee was talking about. Is our
Queen, you
defense
say
just
2-2. If you had to pick your 2-2, that 2-2 anyway, you're okay with?
yeah.
Or
But I guess I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks lost to Chicago. I think it's just hard to beat a team 3 games in a row. And I don't anticipate us beating Philly. So I wouldn't be surprised. And Golden State, say what you want to say that they're without Curry. They're not coming in here laying down in the Garden for
okay.
sure.
So you think your
Um,
Golden State and Philly might be the two games?
Yeah, that's
I'm
a
thinking
9-game win streak. You know what I mean? So let's get there,
I'm
and then we
thinking
can revisit.
I'm thinking Chicago and Philly. I think Chicago's gonna be a
Are the
tough team.
losses?
The losses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just three times in 9 days. We shall see. But to your point, the
Mhm.
is the defense sustainable? That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
RJ and Randall, are you just playing at a high level right now, or are you going to live at that level? And the bigger the sample size is, the more we get a chance to see that okay, this is their level of play. This is just who they are.
I mean, you
Um,
could kind of argue that Randall's taking a step back, and compared to RJ. RJ's kind of he's on an upward trajectory. Randall kind of took a step back, but is still efficient.
you think I don't see where Randall took a step back. I
You
mean,
mean
listen,
from last year?
No, from the start of the season.
I
no.
don't think so.
What I will say now, his shooting and I have this I think I have it. I have the shooting splits for both of them, the first 23 games and then the last 7 games.
Nice.
His shooting over this 7-game win streak is less. He's less efficient. Everything else, his rebounding, his offensive rating, his defensive rating, his net rating,
Turnovers down.
turnovers
Turnovers.
are down, and just even his style of play, you know, has changed as well. So I see Randall playing better, even though he's not shooting well. Right? There's a difference between shooting well and playing well. So yeah.
So when you
Um,
say Randall's not shooting well, what percentages would he need to be shooting well?
no,
At
I
least
mean compared to the
25%.
first.
No, we're saying it went down, or I was
Yeah,
saying it went down.
yeah. Compared to the first 23 games, he was shooting 46.5%. Now he's shooting 42.7%.
At least 45% is where you want to be from a field goal percentage perspective.
Right.
48,
for
48, great. 45.
right. And for my liking, those 3-point attempts need to come down. Like you're not no sharpshooter to take a nine
You-
3-pointers a
You've
game.
been saying that. You've been
Like I
you've been
mean,
saying that
nine
before the
3
season started.
9 3-pointers a
When
game.
Randall
Like
hit 8 or 5, whatever it was, you was like, "Oh man, you
that's
gonna come
fool's
out
goal
shooting."
right there. Now he gonna keep putting them. Now he's gonna keep putting them up. Um,
No,
our,
Randall last 10 games, 26 and a half points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, almost 83 from the foul line, almost 34 from 3, 44.3 field goal percentage overall last 10 games.
right.
I mean, I
Um,
don't know. Seems okay.
well, in this winning streak, he's playing better, but he's shooting 42.7%.
I'll take it.
Yeah, well, we don't have a choice. But his overall game is better. His overall game is better. I'm like, listen, he switched out on Halliburton. Brunson was clutch for us in that Indiana game. We were down 6 with 2 minutes left. I said, oh, this streak is coming to an end. And he came right
That's what I
back and
thought too.
hit the 3-pointer, got a steal, layup. Within like 20 something seconds, we're down 1. But I'm not going to discount Randall. We talked the 6 free throws was clutch, but he switched out on Halliburton twice
2 times.
and played him very well. So I'm good with Randall. I'm good with Randall right now. Get them 3-pointers down to like 4 or 5 a game. I'll be even better. But It's not gonna happen.
And to Randall's, to give him flowers, even throughout the win streak, for the most part of it, his intensity defensively is completely changed for the beginning of the season.
No doubt
So
about it.
it makes a big effect without a doubt.
Yeah, there was an article in the Athletic. Fred Katz had interviewed Randall, and he says that instead of playing drop coverage, he's switching. That he's much more comfortable switching. He said, given his that's what he said. He said, given his athleticism and his ability to move his feet, it's just better for him to switch.
And
He
less
still
thinking
needs to work
involved.
on
Less thinking involved.
reading the switch. He needs to work on that still.
That's exactly it.
But he's been doing better.
But Tone, that's just it. Less thinking involved. Just reacting and using his athleticism, and that's who he is.
Here's another thing too. Why do you play drop?
The offensive guy or the defensive guy with him, whether it's Grimes or whomever, if they're communicating with him, it's good. When they're not speaking, that's when the lapses come. You know what I mean? Because I don't think he switches all the time or at all the right times. Sometimes he switches when he's not supposed to. Sometimes
But
he
we don't
doesn't
know that
switch
if
at
we don't
all
know the
and blames-
schemes.
Huh?
We don't know that if we don't know the scheme, whether they're supposed to switch all the time or not, or not switch.
I mean, I think you could look at the game and see he made
like
the
from
wrong read.
possession.
I think you know what I mean. I mean, maybe he didn't, but even if he didn't make the wrong read, he didn't make the right read because you know what I'm saying. Like he was the closest guy. He was the guy that was supposed. Sometimes you could see it,
right? And you talk
but
about
I
in the
agree
past
he's
7
gotten
games.
way better. Maybe his comfortable is him getting better. I'm just saying it's still something he got to work on a little bit.
And the question I was going to ask was that why would you put somebody in drop coverage?
That's what Tibbs was doing. That's what I was trying to tell y'all. Tibbs was doing that in the beginning of the season. He was literally doing that. Now it's way different.
And he still does it every now and then, but it's become a little bit more circumstantial depending on the matchup and stuff like that. But the reason why you put somebody in drop coverage is because they can't guard the perimeter and they're better off defending the interior and containing at a very short distance. So that was very smart to do that with Randall because Randall has never been an interior defender. He's never been a shot blocker or rim protector, and he doesn't play very good defense down there in the post anyway. So,
or if said player can't shoot, that's why you would play drop coverage.
Right, correct. So, but Randall doesn't fit that as what you see. You see him against Kevin Durant, right? His on-ball defense was pretty good against Kevin Durant, and we see that against with other teams as well, where Randall off-ball were like, oh, geez. But Randall on ball is a much better product. So you got to use the player to their strengths and what they could provide for you for possession.
I agree 100%.
Nick Yak, Randall is not shooting 39% during the streak. He's shooting 33.3%. And so when you say, why would you want somebody to take less threes? Because depending on how well you shoot them, it's a turnover, in my opinion. You know, if you're not shooting them well enough. I mean, it's a little better for me because he's not taking them early in the shot clock. But there was a time when he was just coming down and just pulling up early in the shot clock with no regard for what we're trying to do as a team. Now lately he's been, taking them within the flow of the offense. But for me, you taking that many 3-pointers, you need to be a good 3-point shooter. And in my opinion, he's just not.
Does Randall need to do that though, particularly with this offense of the starting five, because Brunson needs his space?
I think he does need to take some 3-pointers, one, to keep the defense honest, right? So he can have space, and just to space the floor. For Brunson and RJ, but does he need to take 9?
I mean, I guess it could be better shot selection. I'm with you on that, but I think
the thing, though. I think the selection been good. I don't think he's taking bad ones for the most part. If we're talking about the whole year, he's taking good shots for the most part.
He definitely got a gang of heat checks in there though. You got to get
I
a heat
mean,
check. You got to get a heat checks in there. I'm like, yo, fam, is that really what we doing? But you know,
I think everybody's had heat checks, but his heat checks is after hitting two. You know what I mean?
No,
nah, not
one.
always.
One.
Not always. Not always. Sometimes it's just it's just I'm just gunning. I'm shooting. I'm open and I feel good, so I'm gonna shoot this shot. And you know, to Steph's point, yeah, sometimes it is a bit much, but
Yeah.
you know, if he's gonna shoot 35%, 36%, and shoot 8 or 9 a game, and give me that hustle on defense, I think to me that's the biggest difference. Like, yo, if you play bigger and better defense and you're hustling more, then I could live with a little bit more heat check.
Hey,
All right.
you know why too?
I'm
I'm sorry,
sorry.
so just real
No,
quick.
go ahead.
You know why too? Like, because RJ, I understand last 7 he's shooting better, but he's still at 30% for the year, and he was 0 for 5 last night. So now with him being inconsistent at the 3-point line, that now it actually puts more of a pressure on Randall to stretch the floor because RJ hasn't been able to provide that consistently this year.
Yeah, we need some 3-and-D.
Now you're talking.
We need some 3-and-D plays. Any last words?
Happy birthday, Tony.
Happy
birthday.
Tony.
Appreciate y'all. Make me feel good. I'm debating. I was gonna do a show. I'm gonna do a little show, like a little 20-minute one, but I gotta get back to my daughter before midnight. So, but I appreciate y'all for sure, man. Your blackest time.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate y'all stopping by. Anybody else want to say something? I'm sorry.
Steph, thank you for having me.
Of
Shout out
course.
to the chat.
Anytime.
Without the chat, we're not here, so we definitely appreciate them, their thoughts and their perspectives and stuff like that. Great job on the panel as usual with you guys. Great questions and stuff like that. We got to have more conversations like this without doubt.
Yep, definitely. I appreciate y'all for stopping by. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. If you appreciate the content, keep in mind that I also have a channel, Dope Soul Sports Talk. So head on over to there, hit subscribe, hit the notification button so you'll be notified anytime I go live. D, if you want to talk about your show, Tony, if you want.
Yeah, sure. I'll be quick. 12 p.m. tomorrow, we have our pregame for the Knicks versus the Golden State Warriors. We're going to get into some clips about things I don't like, things I do want to see for the next game. We'll go down memory lane where we go down the stats and stuff like that. We'll probably do some GM stuff where we hear words from the GM about how they run their offices and stuff like that and what they deal with on a day-to-day basis with their operations and stuff like that. So try to tune in, guys. Thanks for that stuff.
Yeah, you're welcome. Tone? No?
I'll be live in about 10 minutes after I go use the bathroom.
All right.
And then I'm going to go celebrate my birthday for the last 30 minutes.
All right.
Your blackest time.
I just spammed the chat with my with the link to the channel. Appreciate you. Appreciate the chat. Everybody watching now. Those that's gonna watch later. Peace.